Hi, good morning, everyone. Call the Development Committee meeting of August 15th to order. Roll call, please.
Member Krajewski. Member Chaplin. Here. Member Gustin. Here. Member Ozog. Here. Member Rutledge. Here. Here, Tornatori.
Here. We have a form. I have nothing under chairman's remarks other than we're going to try to move the meeting along. Some of us have a 11 o'clock meeting on the Housing Solutions Committee, but we will get through everything. We have public comment, I understand.
Just one
person here.
It is for item 60.
Commenting on item 60, Jim Krakowski. Here. Okay, sir, public comment, you're limited to 3 minutes. We don't take any new testimony, but we're certainly willing and want to hear from you on any items and your.
So I am the homeowner, and my comments are pertaining to the height of the garage. Some of the issues that were discussed at the previous meeting were sewer or water runoff. And I didn't bring up in that last meeting, but we do have a storm sewer in the corner of our lot, which right now our current gutters are tied into. So the water issue that is on this page that you guys gave me shouldn't be an issue because it's the gutters from the new garage would be tied into that and wouldn't affect any of the other houses, the neighboring houses. As far as the light issue goes, with the height of the new structure, the nearest house to my house or to the garage where it would be is about anywhere from 250 to 300 feet away. So you wouldn't have any light issue with them blocking an existing neighbor's house. Again, because the house is a Cape Cod, I kind of wanted to stay in suit. The height of the roof is so when we put the dormers under, they would match the existing dormers that are on the house. The house currently has a 12-12 pitch. I wanted to kind of match that so the architectural integrity would flow from the house to the detached garage. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? That concludes the public comment portion. Then we move on to minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. I understand item 6A has been pulled. We'll take that up on another date. So we'll move on to item 6B. I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 36-23 zoning 2333. Zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny conditional use to allow an existing rooster to be considered as a pet. There's a motion to the second. Comments? Boy, I'm not surprised to hear it from you, but go ahead.
All righty, since I am the sponsor of the regional hen ordinance in our county, I'm going to speak to the rooster. Surprisingly, in the city of Chicago, roosters are allowed. There are no restrictions on the number of hens you can have, and I know that for a fact. My sister lives in Rogers Park, has a couple roosters, a lot of chickens. And I kind of got a feel for how the rest of you are going to vote, but I'm going to side with the rooster. The neighbors didn't complain. They've got the sound mitigated. So in this case, I think that I'll be voting for the rooster.
Here we all know that when we did this at the urging of Member Rutledge. It was for hens only, not roosters. Certainly not. I didn't think for pets, but that was the ordinance that we had. Yes.
I learned something new yesterday. A lot of people don't want roosters in their yards because they make the noise, but I learned something new yesterday. Even hens will make a rooster noise when they're going throh menopause. When their hormones are changing, many can make.
Yeah.
Don't laugh. It's a biological fact.
I'm
not
laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
It's a new tip.
Before they get rendered, probably.
Cool. Any other questions or comments on the rooster as a pet issue? Okay, I guess we should probably take a roll call on this one. The motion to approve the rooster to be considered a pet.
Member Chaplin?
No.
Member Gustin?
No.
Member Ozog?
No.
Member Rutledge,
Yes.
Chair Tornator.
No. And the motion fails. Moving on to item 6C, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 37-23, zoning 2335. Zoning officer's recommendation to deny conditional use to allow an existing camper to remain parked within 30 feet of the corner side setback. Any questions, comments, concerns? Paul, anything you want to add to this, or is it self-explanatory? Okay.
Self-explanatory questions.
Roll call, please.
Member Chapman? No. Member Guston?
No.
Member Ozark?
No.
Member Rutledge? No. Chair Tornator.
No, and the motion fails. Moving on to item 6D, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 38-23, zoning 2339.
No, so
Kuzkowski, the zoning hearing officers are recommended to bifurcate. The following is zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a variation to reduce the corner side setback, and the zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny the variation to increase the height of the detached garage from permitted 15 to approximately 23. I think we'll take these separately.
thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the first one, the zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve the relief of the variation for the corner side yard setback. Is there a motion to approve on this one?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the second part, zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny the variation to increase the height of the detached garage from 15 feet to approximately 23.5. Paul, you want to give us a little
Yeah.
info on this one, please?
So the maximum height for a detached building on the size of the property here is 15 feet. Petitioner's asking to go to 23 feet. The concern the ZBA had is that given the
Or is it
fact that-
CHO?
I'm sorry, the CHO, sorry about that. The fact that the CHO recommended to approve moving it closer to the property.
What's going on?
Yeah.
We're hearing something. Okay.
Sorry, let me move over here.
Aliens.
Because he recommended.
Come over here.
Further away from the microphone there.
Or just,
Keep
there's
walking
nobody
around.
on Zoom, just turn it on.
There we go.
So because the zoning hearing officer found that because there was a hardship with the septic field on the property to move the building closer to the property line, there was concern that having the height higher than 15 feet would create a issue with having too much bulk adjacent to the public right of way. And even though there's a concern by the petitioner that he wanted to have architectural compatibility with the house is set back further from the property line that the garage is going to be. So there was concern about having too much bulk so close to the property line. That was the issue why he denied the height.
Anybody have any questions, Paul, or comments? Sure.
Thank you, Chair. If this were attached to the house, would he have needed permission to go that high? If it were
Attached to the house, you could go to 36 feet. The other issue here is that there's really no utility of this height addition. It's really for aesthetics. And the petitioner didn't propose that there was a need to have this to go higher other than to have it look compatible with the house. And once again, there was concern about having so much bulk. So
property
close to the-
values, there are a lot of considerations for things like this. I've been through this. If it were attached to the house, it would have been fine. So from that perspective, I will probably support this.
Anybody else?
Is
Yes.
is it blocking anybody else's view of anything?
Like 200, I think he testified it's like 200 feet away from any other house, so doesn't have any effect on that. I agree with Member Rutledge. I think aesthetically, that's gonna be important. They can have more storage, that's an asset to the property itself. And if it weren't for the septic, he'd have more options, so I will be a yes vote on this.
Just to be clear, there's no testimony or evidence as to hardship here at all. This is purely an aesthetic issue, correct?
And to be clear, if there was going to be use of that second story, there would be a concern about the use of that, and that could potentially require a variation as well. But it's just aesthetic. There's no utility in that second floor area.
Any other comments, questions on this one? Okay, there's a motion.
A quick question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Is there possible
future utility for the second floor of any kind?
They wouldn't be able to use it now.
It would not.
For instance, if we found that it was being used, then we would have to revisit that in terms of additional zoning, in terms of square footage.
Okay, thank you.
What else? Okay, we have a motion to approve this matter, even though it was denied by the zoning hearing officer. It's a motion in the affirmative. Roll call, please.
Member Rutledge.
Aye.
Member Guston.
Aye.
Member Chaplin. Aye. Member Ozark.
Aye.
Chair Tornator.
No. And the motion passes. Moving on to item 6E, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 39-23, zoning 2343, Village Theater Guild. The zoning board proposes a recommendation to approve a conditional use, electronic message sign, and a variation to increase the height of an existing sign from 10 feet to 11.5. Any questions, comments? Member Rosa?
Was there any comment about this that we know of, any neighbor comment or traffic?
I didn't see any in the
What is the
packet.
packet?
No objections at all. The variation relative to height is to consider the existing sign, which is already at that height. So in order to change out the static to the electric, they needed a variation to be able to use the same framework, which was at 10 feet. So, but there were no issues from the state, which is an IDOT road, or from adjacent property owners in terms of line of sight issues.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Here we have a motion to approve both the conditional use and the variation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-2673, a recommendation for a contract to Harris Government, annual software maintenance and support from April 1 through March 31st, 2024 for building and zoning, $9,306.52. The Division of Transportation, $5,583.91. Public Works, $1,861.30 for a contract total amount not to exceed $16,751.73. Competitive bid not suitable for competitive sole source. So motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And we enter our presentation for our fiscal year 24 budget for building and zoning. Over to Jim.
So, good morning, thank you. I'll be quick so you can make your 11 o'clock meeting. Thanks for the opportunity to present the budget for next year. If I could have the next slide. So this is just kind of a quick summary of the departments, a little bit. Mission statement is we've got multitude of different services. We've got 3 different divisions. I'll touch on that a little bit. Important thing is we're an enterprise fund. We're not part of the general fund. And our staff is right now 30 people. So, next slide. Sorry if I'm going too quick. I'm trying to I know you're first. So we've got, like I said, 3 different divisions. We have a building division, a zoning and planning division, and an environmental division. The building division primarily handles building permitting. We coordinate with other jurisdictions, fire departments, health department, stormwater. The zoning group handles a lot. They do our code enforcement, they do the ZBA, they do the ZHO. Paul is our community ratings program coordinator. So they do our CRS rating. They also go to and represent the county at all the TIP district meetings, as well as sitting on CMAP on the land use housing committee. And our environmental division has an IEPA delegation grant where they do non-hazardous waste inspections and follow up on complaints throughout the county, not just in the unincorporated areas. And they also manage all of the county's DuPage and other environmental programs. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a brief recap. I like to kind of give a look back at where we are now and where we have been over the last few years. This is through the end of June. Our permitting is a little bit below where we normally would be right now. I think some of that's the economy. We do keep kind of a track of the averages. If we come through and the averages kind of hold for the rest of the year, we'll still end up around 3,200 permits is what we're thinking. Some of the other measures are kind of, a little more where we would expect to be. Inspections, call center, customers served. We're right where you would expect to be halfway through the year. Adjudication cases, again, right where we need to be. They're a little bit higher than normal because we've been doing multiple hearings per month.
ZBA cases and ZHO cases are right where you'd expect to be. Same thing with FOIAs. Single-family homes are down a little bit from last year, but the last 2 years have been a bit of an anomaly because we had two brand new subdivisions. We had the Pulte subdivision, which was 84 houses, and we had the Woodmore subdivision, which was, I think, 26 townhome buildings. And those are all permitted. So we're kind of back to where we would expect to be, which is ending up in the 60 to 70 range of single-family homes. So we're 41 with 6 months to go. We should be about where we would expect to be. If I could have the next slide. So this is just kind of some of a recap of some of the special projects we're doing. Last year, you may recall, January 31st, we went live with Acela. So we're really continuing in particularly the building, but I know zoning is using it quite a bit as well as finance, is reevaluating our business operations. We've actually created 2 new positions to handle different responsibilities as a result of the new software. And it's streamlined a lot of other areas where, for example, our FA1 did a daily deposit every day. Well, now everything's electronic. So we assigned different duties to that person. They're now actually responsible for the summons preparation for adjudication. It's one of their job duties that was never part of that position before. So it's really forced us to look around the entire department. Right now, we're working on some building code updates. The last one we did was a couple of years ago. And I'm working with Joy in the environmental division on electrification readiness and trying to get some of that into our code. Additionally, one of the other things we're looking at is upgrading, for example, decks and the requirements for decks. We've done some off-site training at some seminars that realized that because we don't use the International Residential Code, we should probably update some of our points of attachment, for example, to the house and things like that. Environmental divisions working with the mayor's caucus on the EV readiness program, their checklist program, as well as the solar switch program with CUB and the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. Paul's currently working on another IDA grant to kind of enhance our Clean and Lean program, keep expanding that. And they're also working diligently with community development on the committee for housing solutions. So those are some of the highlight big projects that are going on this year. Next slide. So this is kind of the revenue projections. It's kind of basically the same as last year. Our permit fees, we're anticipating about the same amount that we came up with. The operating grant has gone up a little bit, and that's the Illinois EPA recognizing that we're doing more inspections, so they're funding us a little higher. The service fees, that's the inspections we do at the transfer stations. Bless you. Thank you. So some of those costs have gone up. The investment income is a key one that the treasurer has done an amazing job with our cash balance, and so we're projecting considerable growth in that right now. And then the general fund transfers slightly down from last year. That's the environmental program money that gets transferred to us from the general fund. And we're looking at, around 333,000 this year. So overall, the revenue projection is down a little bit from last year. If I go to the next slide. So this is just our expenses, personnel, commodities, contractual, and capital. Capital, we're not anticipating any large expenses this year. So in 2023, we budgeted for 3 new vehicles. We thought perhaps with the supply chain, we would get 2 in 2023 and 1 would be carried over into 24. Fortunately, we got all 3. Towards the end, I think probably in June, all 3 came in at once. So we're not going to carry any of that over for next year. Let's see, the budget, the personnel line, that's just, shows the trend of personnel salary increases. We get our personnel information directly from the finance department, what they expect us to see for COLAs, IMRF, insurance, everything else. And I think that might be about it. So commodities, that's just our regular office equipment. And then in total contractual budget, that's gone down a little bit. One of the things we're not renewing next year is the TPI contract. So that's a savings of about $50,000. And then if I could have the last slide. So really, this is just kind of the operational considerations we see as our biggest expenses for next year. A lot of it is going to depend on, interest rates and what the building environment looks like. That'll have an impact on us. Our IT issues with Acela, Managed Services, Bluebeam, Siler, and everything that is associated with the new software is about almost $208,000. And then indirect costs, we're estimating it'll be the same as it was for this year. We haven't heard what the number will be until later. So by the time the budget's put in, we just put back the same thing we have for this year. So that's really a quick overview.
Great, thank you. Before we give any questions again for some of the newer members, the enterprise fund, enterprise budget, what goes out is from what comes in. So it's always maybe the easiest budget to deal with because we're only spending what we have. And again, not only do we deal with Paul and Jim and the staff deal with the, I would say, garden variety things of dealing with building and zoning, but Clean and Lean program, which has been extremely successful and beneficial to the county, and now Paul and staff being right on point with the housing solutions, giving us all that information, and we'll even take on a greater role as we get farther into it. So I want to thank them for that. Any questions on the budget of Jim? Yes.
I just didn't hear. Did you say something about TPI?
So yeah, we have had TPI as a second backup contractor for plan review. And we've done that the renewals are optional. We've got 1 year left. We're not going to renew
Okay.
again. We haven't used them in 3 years.
No, I have no
We
issue.
encumber the money for it, but it doesn't cost us anything, like Sam was saying. It's an enterprise fund. If we don't spend it, it just stays there. So rather than go through that again, we won't do that in the spring.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Sam. So with our housing ad hoc committee, are you seeing any proposed zoning changes that would impact the budget? I guess that's kind of two questions.
I don't think we're seeing them yet. I mean, we're still kind of in the infancy stages of gathering data. There may be some at some point, but we don't really know. And I think it's way too early.
Okay, and like I said, it was two questions, so thank you, Sam.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. We're not voting on this today, right? Presentation, okay. Okay, is there a motion to receive and place on file the presentation? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Paul. Thank you all for great jobs.
Yep.
All business? New business. Hearing none, without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, now where are we meeting?
I don't know, I'm just gonna ask you.
Oh,